For our next keynote, you'll be hearing from the CEO and co-founder at Thrive Market, Nick Green. Nick will be interviewed by the president of January Digital's Sarah Engel.
I'm so glad to be here. So great to see everybody here on a Sunday. And Nick, I'm so excited about this conversation. You have grown Thrive Market to 700 million in sales, 1.6 million subscribers, and have really just become such an innovator, both in grocery and in subscription space. So talk to us a little bit about just the origin of this idea, how you started the company to begin with.
Sure. And just even before I do that, for those of you that don't know, Thrive Market is on a mission to make healthy living easy and affordable for everyone. And the way we do that is with an annual membership model that enables members to get better than retail prices on the best organic natural products you find at a health food retailer through a user experience that is purpose-built for healthy living. That's what it is today, and that's what the mission was from the very beginning. So we started the business back in 2014. We're more than a decade in. The genesis really came from my own experience, growing up middle class in the Midwest, with a mom who worked very hard to make healthy decisions and seeing firsthand how hard that was for her to do. Fast forward, I had started and sold another company looking for what to do next. And my first company was in education. And the only thing more fundamental than education is health. So we thought it was kind of crazy that in the year 2014, you still couldn't find healthy products at an affordable price. And frankly, in many parts of the country, at any price in a way that was accessible. So that's the mission we've been on since day one. It's been a wild ride. Back in the early days, we were rejected by every investor we talked to. Nobody thought that middle America wanted to get healthy. But fast forward more than 10 years, and we're proving them wrong.
I love that. Well, and a lot has changed about consumers in the last 10 years. And I think especially right now, as you look at the boom of health and wellness, but the juxtaposition with, people's spending habits right now clearly being a little tighter. So talk to us about the current consumer and how that's shifted since when you started.
Yeah, so there's always changes. There's ebbs and flows, obviously. I would say the mega trend, though, that we've been focused on since the beginning and that I think has been a through line in our business and in this country for the last decade plus is the desire to get healthier. Mm-hmm. And I think all consumers, doesn't matter geography, doesn't matter politics, doesn't matter income level. Especially families want to put better food on the table for their children in their homes. And we saw that back in 2014. I think what's been really exciting for us over the last 10 years, that movement has become a real groundswell. And, you see it in things like MAHA in the political arena, and we see it every day in the consumer arena. And that, even through ups and downs in the economy, ups and downs in the market, people that are prioritizing their health, they prioritize their health through thick and thin. And, this year's been an interesting year because the market has obviously done quite well. Consumers, though, I think have started to feel a pinch. And, we're seeing our members value their membership more, buy more on the promotions that we do, really lean in where they can get the value pricing at Thrive. The average Thrive Market member makes back their membership fee in just 2 purchases. So that value proposition of, value for great quality is, I think, more important than ever. And the reality is, even today, if you go off of the Thrive Market platform, organic and natural products are at a significant premium to, highly denatured, ultra processed food, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's the reality. And so we're finding that our members are really, they're leaning to health, but wanting to do it at a good value.
Okay. It's interesting. I think 10 years ago, somebody said organic or even delivery, you would have thought, okay, this is California. These are on the coasts only. That's not what you're finding at this point. This isn't a coastal trend of wellness, right?
Not at this point, and not even at the beginning. I think a lot of people, they were really shocked back then, but even today, a lot of folks that are in places like, LA and New York and San Francisco are surprised by it today. 50% of our member base is Midwest and Southeast. The average household income is under $100,000. We had orders from every state in the lower 48 within our first month of starting the business, and that was at very low scale. So it was one of the most heartening things for us to see, because that was the whole thesis, is that, again, it doesn't matter where you live, it doesn't matter what your income is, it doesn't matter what your politics are. People want to get healthier. And unfortunately, we live at a moment, decades now, where there's been an increasingly kind of epidemic level of diseases that stem from what we put in our bodies, what we put on our bodies, what we put in our homes. And I think, again, we're seeing right now a political moment where folks are really standing up and taking a stand. But even back in 2014, when we started Thrive, I think there was already this consumer movement, and it's only getting stronger.
Did you want to call those VCs back and tell them I told you so? When Middle America.
Actually, they called us back.
Okay, perfect.
So
good.
We've raised a few rounds of funding since then. So, we didn't say no to them.
I love it. Yeah. Well, let's talk a little bit about the information and misinformation I think out there about healthy food, and your role in that. Like, what's your responsibility in providing people information about truly healthy food, not greenwashing, being really clear with people about how they should be feeding their family in a healthy way?
Yeah, I mean, we think about kind of zooming out. We think about what are the barriers to getting healthy. And back at the beginning, the one that we were really focused on, well, there was kind of two, is geography. Mm-hmm. So shipping to anywhere in the country, because 50% of Americans don't live within driving distance of a health food retailer. Crazy. But also affordability, right? And that was a huge thing. One thing that has changed in the last 10 years is I actually think a bigger barrier than either of those today is misinformation, contradictory information, and just really too much information. Back when my mom was trying to do this 30 or 40 years ago, she didn't have any information. She didn't figure it out herself. No internet, no ChatGPT. Today, consumers have too much information. They have influencers, telling them different things, like literally polar opposite. Right. You should be carnivore. No, you should be vegan. You should go gluten-free. No, it doesn't matter. And I think that's really overwhelming. And then to boot, you have CPG brands that are, creating, frankly, ultra-processed foods that make health claims, despite the fact that they are unhealthy. And so, you can't trust the package. You can't trust the internet. I don't know if you can trust ChatGPT, but where do you start?
Right.
And what we try to do is create a platform where you can outsource your trust to us. And so we curate, I call us the uneverything store. We don't carry 100 types of almond butter. We're going to carry the top 5. We curate the best of with 700 plus different ingredients, the highest quality standards in the industry, and then we create a bunch of user experience features that allow members to further curate the assortment to them. And so this is like filters. We take every product across 150 different metadata categories. It's increasingly AI that we now use to learn from revealed preferences what people want and map those to what they may want in the future. And it's really become kind of the extension of our mission now is not only how do we make it accessible, but how do we make it easy? Yeah. And I think the really exciting frontier on that is going to be using the data that we've collected over the last 10 years plus from more than 1 million paid members and many millions of transactions to basically use AI to then give very personalized experiences.
Well, and let's go a little bit deeper. There are still a lot of barriers to healthy eating. You and I were talking before about urban food deserts, which, as well as rural food deserts. The people who grow our food, don't have access to healthy food. So talk to me a little bit about how you're working to kind of lower those barriers.
Yeah, well, again, it started affordability is a major pillar of what we do, and the membership model makes that possible. So by paying an annual membership fee a la Costco, our members can then get access to the best organic products at a significant discount. And our goal, frankly, is to try to price a natural organic product at or below the conventional equivalent. So we want you to be able to buy a Kind bar for the price of a Snickers bar, non-toxic laundry detergent for the price of Tide. That's not always possible. But through the membership model, by going direct with brands, cutting out steps in the supply chain, and then more and more also innovating with our own brand. So, fully 20% of our sales, more than 20% of our sales come from the Thrive Market brand. We have more than 500 products on site that we actually go directly to the source, work with producers, work with co-packers to create real innovation, and then bring those to our members. So we have really, really worked to break down the barriers, make it much, much easier. And over time, we think we can keep doing that.
One of those barriers, I said I could talk about this the entire time, the fact that you all were the first online grocer to ever accept SNAP benefits. That is a huge accomplishment, and it's a huge, I think, service to, people who deserve healthy access to food. So talk to us about what that process, it had to have taken a long time to make that happen. How did that process work? And, kind of how are you seeing that tie into your broader mission?
It took almost the whole history of the business, actually.
Really?
So it was last year that we became the first pure play e-commerce retailer to be able to accept Snap Online. And so that was in partnership with the USDA. We originally petitioned the USDA to allow us to accept Snap back in 2015.
Wow.
So it was like a decade. And we got more than 300,000 signatures for that petition at that time. So there was already the demand. For those of you that don't know, SNAP is one of the largest programs in our country in terms of federal assistance. There's more than 40 million families that are on SNAP. These are families disproportionately that have children in homes, so it really affects kids. And up until last year, there's no pure play e-commerce retailer that was able to provide or accept Snap Online. So it was a huge accomplishment. It was thank you. And I don't mean an accomplishment just for us, right? It was an accomplishment too for the USDA to think out of the box and do things differently. It was an accomplishment for all of the brands that wanted to reach these consumers that hadn't had the ability to before. And actually, we did a petition with them as well, with hundreds of brands from our platform that participated. And it's just a huge milestone for access in this country. One thing I didn't mention is that we give better pricing on the site, but we also give free memberships to low-income families. So we've always done that. Oh. But I think the hardest thing was knowing, all right, we can give them a free membership, but even at our discounted pricing for the products, many of them couldn't afford to buy those products. And with Snap, that's now possible. So, this is one of those examples where it's also a great business opportunity because there's a lot of people out there and a lot of money spent right now on largely unhealthy products, unhealthy food with Snap. So, we look at this as a great sort of case study and where we could do something that's good for our business. It's going to be great for our brands, and it's obviously going to be very good for these consumers.
Thank you. I think that the membership and subscription combination, talk to us a little bit more about that. I think that subscriptions can often get impersonal or stale over time, especially when you're thinking about something like I'm replenishing the same thing every 2 weeks. So you have taken a very different angle with that. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling from back in the beginning of the business was that subscription commerce is dangerous. Right? It's like it's a very effective tool in driving revenue. But often it's business revenue at the expense of customer value. I think there's always that temptation to create the forced continuity model. Yeah. And so when we built our membership model, that was exactly what we didn't want to do. So, people would say, oh, you're a subscription business. Like, no, we're a membership business. So you come in, you don't go on the site until you buy the membership, or if you're a Gives member, you get a membership for free. And then a la Costco, you can now buy everything a la carte. About 5 years ago, we did actually, for the first time, venture into subscription. And the reason we did is that over 95% of our assortment, these are pantry staples, home goods, they're things that they're replenishable. They're things that people want to buy over and over again. And we are finding our members love us for product discovery. They come to us for innovation, but they also come to us for the things they buy over, every few weeks. So we treaded very carefully. And I like to say we kind of turned the traditional subscription model on its head because our number one metric was basically don't send anything to people they don't want. So what that meant in our business, and I think should mean in grocery, is that subscription should not be set it and forget it. People with dog food, they buy the same thing every week. With groceries, you have different length periods. You buy multiple things at a time, and it varies. And so we've created a model, I call it intelligent defaults. And the basic idea is if we can get 50% right on what you're going to order, and then you can edit the other 50%, I'm saving you a lot of time. I'm still giving you as the consumer all the control. And then we can build features that basically create and streamline that process for our members. So that's the approach that we've taken. We've ramped it up slowly over the last 4 or 5 years, but it's now well over 50% of our sales on the product sales side. And so from a business standpoint, it's really powerful because we have now these two predictable revenue streams, membership and subscription. But I think more importantly, it's long-term valuable for us and actually delivering value to our members because we built it the right way, not the standard kind of set it and forget it forced continuity model.
And so they are, will you let them know ahead of time, hey, your order's coming up, so you're not going to send it to them until they say, click, yes, I approve?
Yeah, and in fact, if a member is using the subscription tool for the first time, if they're using scheduled orders and they don't edit their order, we won't send it to them.
Yeah.
So we'll default the other way. I think the stat is in the mid 90% of scheduled orders overall are edited. And we're getting to where more than 50% of what they buy is what's in the scheduled order. But just that ability to come in and edit further is super, super powerful. And, just to tie it in back to the question you were asking earlier, like I think one of the frontiers here is going to be where we can not only give them what they already have subscribed to, but start to predict things they haven't subscribed to, but are going to want. Right. And we're already doing this right now on first order. We call it AI Cart, where when members come in, they will take this onboarding quiz. They'll get recommendations. We used to give those recommendations just like as recommendations. Now they've gotten so good because of the power of that data, we're loading it into the cart and then they can edit it. I think where that gets really interesting is where you're basically interacting with an AI every time you grocery shop. So rather than starting with your empty cart, strolling down the aisle, you start with a box of items curated for you, some of which you bought before, some of which the AI can triangulate from a massive data set that you may want now, and then you have full control to edit it. And so you become kind of the boss in the equation versus the laborer walking down the aisles.
I was about to ask you about the quiz. I mean, quizzes are often used in fashion and apparel and other places, but this is a unique situation where I went through the process. Are you gluten-free? Like everything that your family might need to know, they are giving you all of that information at the very beginning. So talk to us about that quiz and how important that is as like a core pillar of your data.
Yeah, I mean, we think we're a retailer, obviously. We're also a CPG brand because we have our own products. But more and more, we're becoming a data company. And over the last decade, that is honestly the greatest asset that we've developed, not only for our business, but also on behalf of our members. We know what members want, and we know it from their revealed preferences. And now with the quiz, we know it from their stated preferences. Right. And you pointed out quizzes are everywhere. People love taking quizzes. It's shocking how much they love taking quizzes.
How much information they'll give you.
How many questions they'll answer. And I think what's interesting is food is becoming it's becoming a lifestyle category, right? People have the same way they have their preferences on fashion, they think about the same thing for food. And so, whether it's like individual diatribes they might be a part of, diets they want to try but haven't tried yet, or more serious things. Like you have families that there's a kid who has a nut allergy and a parent who's lactose intolerant, and they're trying to shop for multiple different needs and preferences and even dietary restrictions in one family. And so telling us up front what is the case for their family allows us to then curate an assortment just for them. And we basically then merge what they tell us at the beginning with then what they show us by what they buy. And this creates a 360-degree view of the customer over time or the member over time. And again, I keep saying it, but this is the thing I'm most excited about because I think we can go from not only making it accessible, but really making it easy. And when we think about our typical member, it's a mom, it's a parent who is on the go, who's got kids in the home, who's probably juggling a career as well, and on a budget. And it's like, how are they going to do everything? Right. We can make that possible.
Right. I love that. Well, I want to make sure that we get to, you talked about your private label. You've also become the place to pilot really fast growth brands, and you have people have an opportunity there. Clearly, once they get into your subscription model, I'm sure that's quite lucrative for them as well. Talk to us about product innovation and kind of how you look at the balance between private label and the brands that you bring in.
Yeah, I mean, one of the most exciting things over the last, and it's now been more than a decade, but just in the natural products industry, there are so many mission-driven brands doing really innovative things. And we call it our merchandising strategy left of the trend curve. And the whole idea is we want to basically, again, use our data to go find those brands before consumers have, before they're widely distributed, before they're out at other places, and then introduce those brands and accelerate their growth, their development by bringing them to bring them to health conscious consumers. And that model has been incredibly powerful in delivering value to brands. They're able to parlay their success on Thrive Market into broader retail distribution, which we're excited to support. And the hope is over time, it really accelerates the movement towards these innovative, mission-driven brands who are raising quality standards and doing the right thing.
And you've done some collaborations as well, like some we've branded products.
I mean, so to me, I love with our private label, we don't try to cannibalize our brands. We actually, again, use the data to go fill gaps in the assortment. So if a brand is doing the innovation, we're not interested in copycatting that. We can go say, where's the innovation not happening? And we'll do that innovation. Yeah. But I think the future is going to be merging what we do on private label with what our brands are doing to do custom innovation. And Costco's done this for years with pack sizes and things like that. The vector we'd like to do it on is health and attributes where our brands can innovate with us for our health and wellness focused members, go out on a limb, take a little bit of a risk, but we can back it with our data, and then bring stuff that's really special and co-branded. And just one example of that is a collaboration we did with Lesser Evil, where we used, our Evo, our extra virgin olive oil, and just created a totally new product that didn't exist in the popcorn category.
They're fun. I love it. All right, we have a second left. What do you think is coming next? Like 10 years in, what's your dream?
I mean, this is like such a cop-out, but we're 10 years in and it really is day one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 100 million households in the US. We're less than 2% penetrated. We have a long way to go on the categories. So, we're excited for the next 10 years.
All right. Thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank you.